Have you been charged with a DUI? If you have taken or refused a breath test, you should have been given some paperwork regarding your right to a DMV hearing. First and foremost, you must exercise that right. You only have 10 days from the date of your arrest to request that hearing in the state of Oregon. In Washington, there's a similar hearing available, so you should read your paperwork carefully. If you don't request that hearing, the license suspension goes into effect if you failed the breath test or if you refuse the breath test. If you have the hearing, two things may happen. One is the officer may not show. If that's the case and it's not an excused absence, there is no license suspension for refusing or failing the breath test. If the officer does show, we then have the opportunity to cross-examine that officer under oath prior to any trial. That locks in some of his testimony before a prosecutor is able to get his hands on the officer and go through trial preparation. That can be a huge advantage at trial. Now, the other part of it is the paperwork you were given will tell you when you need to be in court. You cannot miss that court date. If you miss that court date, the diversion option may not be available to you if you are otherwise eligible for diversion. Also, if you are pulled over and being investigated for a DUI, you have a right to an attorney. If the officer is asking you to conduct field sobriety tests, you should ask for a lawyer. You should most likely refuse those field sobriety tests. Those field sobriety tests are very subjective. Not every officer is as good as other officers in evaluating and instructing individuals on the field sobriety tests, and a simple slip-up could be construed as being under the influence. As far as the breath test goes, most importantly, request to talk to an attorney. In Oregon, the police have to give you that right, and their failure to do so can lead to the suppression of any breath test failure or refusal. Therefore, always ask to at least attempt to talk to a lawyer. Now, whether or not to take the breath test will go to any number of certain facts. I cannot get into every fact now, but generally, if you are diversion eligible, it is best to take the breath test, which may result in only a 90-day suspension if you fail. It's possible you could pass. A refusal of the breath test will lead to a 1-year suspension of your driving privileges, pending the outcome of the DMV hearing, and that refusal could also be used against you at trial. Therefore, if you are being investigated for a DUI, please ask the officer, demand from the officer that you want to talk to a lawyer.